Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. Happy Sunday to all of you ladies and gentlemen. I have so many stories to go over with you today that I think this is going to have to be a special news episode because it's going to be a lot longer than they normally are. In addition to that, ladies and gentlemen, I am happy to say for those of you that are still looking for a solar generator, Oupes is having an Earth Day sale that starts tomorrow, Monday, the 15th of April, and runs through the 22nd of April. And they're going to be having a flash sale in between those dates that are going to offer the very best prices of the sale. And in addition, ladies and gentlemen, they are going to be having a giveaway of 20 of the new Exodus 600 solar generators, so stay tuned for that. Anyways, I'm going to provide you with all of that information later on in the video, but first, let's get to it. And ladies and gentlemen, if there are any parts during this video that you want to skip, all you have to do is use the chapters function. Click on whatever chapter you want to fast forward to. That way you can get to the stories that you find more interest in faster. Now, I don't even know if I can mention the names of these countries without getting in trouble here on YouTube, but I'll try my best. I strikes I as region plunges into escalation cycle that could end in nuclear war. Now, the main reason that I find interest in this article was for a one-liner, and it's that there are people in that region still panic buying food, still not prepared. We here and other nations that can see in from the outside know that we are probably the closest that we've ever been to a nuclear war since the Cuban Missile Crisis back in the 60s, I believe it was, or the late 50s, whichever one. And we, ladies and gentlemen, still feel that we should be prepared, or at least those of us that are awake, that don't have our heads in the sand, feel that we should be prepared at all times. And even people that are actually going through an SHTF still have to panic buy. Now, what I'm trying to say is that you should not wait until 1 minute after the crisis starts to prepare. I'm not sure if you've heard this before. I'm going to paraphrase it, but I'd rather be prepared 10 years early than to try to start to prepare 1 minute after it's started. And for those of you that don't think that we are very close to a war, not only within regions around the world, but the world at large, another insurance carrier adds war exclusion to policies as World War III looms. Why? Because insurance carriers, i.e. companies, they're in the insurance business to make money, not to lose money. So if they see that something is of very high probability, they're probably going to go ahead and add that to their policies. Now, this is a letter that this gentleman received, and it says your commercial inland marine coverage will include a nuclear, biological, chemical, and radiological hazard exclusion. Though war exclusions are technically nothing new for insurance carriers, they do have ominous implications for what is soon expected, meaning that they're putting specific exclusions within their insurance than others. The U.S. is facing record drug shortages. ABC reported this week that drug shortages in the United States have reached an all-time high. In the first quarter of 2024, the U.S. faced 323 active medication shortages, surpassing the previous record of 320 in 2014. Particularly alarming, they say, shortages in chemotherapy drugs are persistent, and hospitals and clinics have reported completely running out, with doctors having to ration or prioritize who gets the limited supplies first. Third world country, anyone? Who's been talking about this nation here, the U.S., becoming a third world nation sooner or later? Well, I would say that we're not there just yet, but we are definitely marching towards that outcome. Congratulations, ladies and gentlemen, those of you that are on Social Security, because it seems that this year you're going to get a higher COLA increase than what was previously expected. Why is that? The March CPI, Consumer Price Index, came in at about 3.5%. That's higher than the inflation trend indicated last month based on February's CPI data. Based on this trend, the Senior Citizens League is adjusting the long-term forecast COLA to 2.6% in 2025. The latest COLA estimate is higher than TSCL's February projection of 1.75. So congratulations, ladies and gentlemen. 2.6% is coming your way. Leave in the comments what you're going to do with all of that extra cash. And talking about the BRICS nations, China makes major financial announcement. And this is a major announcement that I haven't really heard too many talking about. China made a huge financial announcement last week indicating that they are launching a new currency swap program with developing countries. The currency swap allows the central banks of developing countries to sign an agreement with China that would facilitate trade in local currencies. You understand this? In local currencies. And there are more developing countries in the world than there are developed countries. Central banks can swap their local currencies for trade with China and save millions in exchange rates. What does this mean, ladies and gentlemen? Just one more step away from the US dollar being used as the world reserve currency. I previously stated that the US Federal Reserve note, the US dollar, it can be called the world reserve currency all at once. Anyone can stand up and says the US dollar is the world reserve currency, but how much is it being used? That's what really matters. Now, I have to admit that when I saw this article, I thought it was a little clickbaity after reading the rest, but they make a good point. Chinese yuan officially overtakes US dollar. What they're talking about in this article is that now in Russia, more exchanges are being made in Chinese yuan than US dollars. We probably already knew that that was going to happen eventually because the US is not allowing Russia to use US dollars in the international system, really, by kicking them off the SWIFT system. So we pretty much knew that was going to happen. However, ladies and gentlemen, the reason this is important is because if it is successful, and Russia is showing that it is being successful in continuing to be able to trade with other nations, continuing to be able to use their currency with other nations and bypassing the US dollar, more nations are going to go ahead and jump on this bandwagon and say, hey, why do we have to use the US dollar? We don't. We can just trade bilaterally.
For the people who work numbers, I am giving you free advice that those of you who are holding dollars, you surely might go into losses. You better do what you must do, because this market is going to be different in a couple of weeks.
And I am on the record of saying that one of the things that scares me the most about this administration is not that we go to war, but how it's sabotaged our military and how it can sabotage our ability to win in a conflict. That's what scares me the most. Biden punishes drillers with 15-fold increase in permitting costs, plans to block Arctic oil extraction. And this is in the same line. We are now seeing with our eyes the destruction of the United States of America, not only geopolitically, but internally as well. 1 week after the Biden administration slapped new regulations on key power grid components, the Washington Post reports that U.S. oil and gas companies will face a 15-fold increase in costs to drill on federal land under a new rule released on Friday. So they're charging these companies that drill energy that we need in order to live in this time and place that we are in now. We need energy, all right? Solar panels are not going to do it, period. I love solar panels, but solar panels are not going to do it. So he's charging these companies 15 times more than what it needs for them to get energy that we need. Who do you think is going to pay that extra cost? Do you think the companies are going to pay it? Absolutely, they're going to pay it. They have to pay it if they want to stay in business. But who do you think they're going to pass along that cost to? So he's not charging these companies 15 times more than what it takes to drill. He's charging you, the American people, we, the American people, 15 times more than what it takes to drill. And what I don't understand is this, is that it's not going to make a difference. I think here it says, let me read on, and then I'm going to show you an example that hopefully will convince you that what I'm saying has validity. Here it says, under the Interior Department Bureau, land management will require drillers to pay $150,000 per lease on federal lands from $10,000. The first comprehensive update to this federal oil and gas leasing program in over 3 decades. Great. What's that $150,000 going to do for our government? It's not even a drop in the bucket. Let me take out my calculator here. I went ahead and calculated how much the United States of America goes ahead and borrows on a per second basis. And that's if we have a $2 trillion deficit. So for example, let's say we have a $2 trillion deficit, meaning that we spent in 1 year $2 trillion more than what we took in, so we had to borrow $2 trillion, right? If you take $2 trillion and divide it by 365, and then divide that number by 24 hours, and then divide that number by 60 minutes in each hour, and then divide that number by 60 seconds in each minute, we borrow as a nation $36,529,680.36 per second. But $150,000 could mean everything to some of these smaller drillers of them going out of business or being able to stay in business. And as we restrict our own drillers, our own miners here in the United States, we ban the United States from doing business with countries that actually do it. US and UK ban deliveries of Russian copper, nickel, and aluminum to Western metal exchanges. And here is what that means. According to Bloomberg, the rulers prohibit delivery of new supplies from Russia to the London Metal Exchange. So whenever you hear like the LME or the CME, that's what they're talking about here, these exchanges. The restrictions apply to copper, nickel, and aluminum produced on or after 13 April, and the U.S. is also banning Russian imports of all 3 metals. Where are we going to get them from, ladies and gentlemen? I don't know, but it seems that they don't want us to get them from anywhere. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let me take a couple of minutes here to talk about the awesome sale that Oupes is having. It starts on the 15th of April, which is tomorrow on Monday, and it ends on the 24th of April. I think I said the 22nd earlier, but it's the 24th. But more importantly, on the 18th of April, they're going to have a flash sale where they're going to try to liquidate some of their solar generators that are in the Legacy series and also have better prices on other units. So if you really want to save, make sure that you wait until the 18th during their flash sale. And guess what? You can still use my 5% off coupon, but not during the flash sale. Why? Because during the flash sale, the prices are going to be even better than if you were using my 5% off coupon during the regular sale days. In addition to that, if you subscribe to their YouTube channel, and on the video that I'm going to leave you, if you leave a comment saying what you would use the Exodus 600 for, that they're coming out here, I believe it's the 22nd of April that they're coming out with that model, then you'll be entered to win one out of as many as 20 Exodus 600s that they're going to be giving away, just if you leave a comment on that video and you are subscribed to their channel. And in addition to that, they have really cool videos there that actually teach you about solar generators, and they teach you about watts, about volts, about amps, in very short and concise videos. So they're not only in it to sell you solar generators. Of course, they're a business, they do that, but they teach you about solar generators. And also, ladies and gentlemen, I'll end it with this. One of the reasons why I like Oupes as much as I do is not because of their solar generators and because they're, in my opinion, the best bang for your buck, but because they have Oupes Helps, and it's a program where they keep back 5% of all of the money that they make by selling solar generators, and they give back to the community. They give back to people that may need a solar generator for a medical reason, like let's say they need an oxygen machine or a CPAP, and they need something in order that the electricity goes out. All you have to do is fill out a very simple application, and they'll go ahead and look at it. And a lot of people within the AP community have received solar generators from Oupes just because they asked for it, because they couldn't afford to purchase one on their own. So thank you very much, Oupes. Now let's get back to the video. Get ready for your auto insurance rates to go higher, because as I've often told you, inflation only has one way to go, and that's up. Biden's sticky inflation. Auto insurance rates record biggest annual jump since 1976. At least we are making records on some things, ladies and gentlemen. At least we are number one on some things. Joe's sticky inflation continues to ravage the working poor. Who is it that inflation hurts the most? Those of you that have been following me, and those of you that live in the real world, it is the working and the working poor. Because your dollars become worth less, you have to spend them as soon as you earn them, and you are not allowed the privilege, as the 1% are, to actually buy real assets with those dollars. Why? Because you have to spend them right away. And that's who inflation really hurts. It's the poor. As inflation heats up in the first quarter of this year, the cost of living on American highways is seriously spiraling out of control. Auto insurance in the U.S. increased more than 22% in the last 12 months that ended in March, the largest annual increase since 1976, according to Bloomberg. Congratulations, America. Insurance costs are not the only things that are going up. Neither are cocoa beans. Neither is the price of gas. Also, coffee, ladies and gentlemen. Get your coffee stocked up. If they're telling you now that coffee is hyperinflating, it doesn't mean that it's hyperinflating at the shelf right now. I know that the prices are a lot higher than what they used to be in the recent future, but on the shelf right now, there is still coffee priced at prices that you got used to over the last couple of years. Because the next bean is hyperinflating, and it's not cocoa, but it's coffee beans. Robusta coffee futures in London are hitting a record high on Friday. This comes as poor harvest in Vietnam, the world's second largest producer of Robusta beans, fuels concerns about global shortages. Also, Arabica futures are erupting. Futures for Robusta, the cheaper coffee bean grown at lower altitudes and requiring less care than more expensive Arabica, are up 2.6% to $3,945 per ton, a new record high based on data going all the way back to 2008. Let's have a quick talk, ladies and gentlemen, about where those dollars that are taken from you go. Where does the U.S. tax dollar go? What do my taxes even pay for? This is going to be interesting. Is it constitutional, ladies and gentlemen? Now, I'm not asking you if it's legal, because these bureaucrats can write anything into law and make it legal. But is it constitutional? Is it what our founding fathers fought for and died for? Social Security. Is it constitutional for a government to take from you by force and tell you this is for your own good, for your retirement, to make sure that you're not poor? And then when you do retire, they have devalued that same currency that they took from you by force. Is it constitutional for them to invest your money for you? Is it constitutional for them to say, this is going to be for the better good so that we can take care of people that can't take care of themselves? That is why we fought a war. That is why this nation was created. Because the government under which the colonists were under, they didn't want a king. They didn't want a superior power to tell them how they were going to live their lives. I digress. Is it constitutional, ladies and gentlemen, for the government to take money from some and then redistribute it to others in the form of health care? When did the government get into the health care business? Is it constitutional? Just ask yourself that question. 13 cents out of every dollar. Is it constitutional that the government make you give them 13% of your dollars that go from taxes, so that they can feed people that they can't feed themselves? We used to be able to take care of that by ourselves through charity. But now they forcefully tax you so that they can do it, so that they can have a voting base, my opinion, of people that are dependent on them and will continue to bring them into power so that they can get their 13 cents worth. National defense is something that is constitutional. All right. But there used to be a time where we didn't need to tax the average American or the average taxpayer to death in order to secure our nation. And is this 13 cents that's coming out of every tax dollar being used properly when our southern borders are as porous as they are? Let's talk about interest. This 11 cents for every dollar that's taxed, this is going to skyrocket, and it is going to spiral our dollar out of control. Because when our interest gets so high, that dollar that you see now that's valued at about 105, 106 on the DXY is going to plummet. Why? Because the United States of America will come to a point where it can't get any more loans. Why? Because no one will trust that the money that they pay them back with will be worth anything. They'll always get their money back, but how much will that money be able to buy them?
Are U.S. Treasury bonds still safe to invest in?
Very much so. I think this is not an issue of credit rating. The United States can pay any debt it has because we can always print money to do that. So there is zero probability of default.
And I'll finish it off with this one. Pushed up by central banks. Bank of America sees gold at 3,000, UBS at 4,000, and Goldman at 2,700. AP sees it at about 2,900, I believe, by the end of this year. But we'll see what happens. Ladies and gentlemen, protect yourselves. If you don't want to eat gold, then don't get gold. That's for those people that say you can't eat gold. Don't get gold. Don't get silver. Get food. Get medicine. Get shoes. Get tires. Get extra oil filters, extra Band-Aids. Get those things that you know are going to be so expensive to get during a depression, because that's what we're going to head into, that instead of worrying about getting it when it's unavailable, you'll already have it. Now, having said that, if you're still here, you are awesome. Go check out the links that I left for you for the Earth Day sale that starts tomorrow on Monday, and it goes all the way through the 22nd. And remember that there is going to be a flash sale halfway through, so be on the lookout. I will remind you on Monday and Tuesday and all throughout the sale. That way those of you that maybe don't catch one of my videos will catch that information on my upcoming videos. In addition to that, remember to go to that YouTube video for Oupes and enter to win. It's very easy to enter to win one of those Exodus 600s, and they're actually very nice. I've been messing around with one here for the last couple of weeks, and I'll probably do a short video, a review video on it here later on next week. Having said that, ladies and gentlemen, let me get off of here because I've made this video way too long. God bless every one of you. God bless America. I'm Alaska Prepper. I'm out.